Welcome to Not Sure This Matters with Suits, Fish, Mark. What's up, boys?
How are you?
What's going on?
Everything, my man.
Everything.
What day is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's Sunday, right?
Marco's leering at me because we made jokes about Marcus's new microphones, and he gets very protective of his boy.
I mean, he's doing us a pretty good favor.
Yeah, he's a solid
It's
dude.
Sunday morning. Like, you know, I gotta get a
Should we give a quick shout out to Marcus?
Shout out, Marcus.
shout out, Marcus?
Thanks
Hell of a job, kid.
Thanks for the Adderall.
It is spectacular.
Just kidding. Just Mike took it. Big news at the gym this week. I won't name names, but if you can't pet it, and I have had a father buddy at kids soccer that we've been sort of saying, hey, you should check out the gym. And I've been seeing a lot of them at the gym lately.
And wives of them, too.
Oh, really?
Well, not that in particular, but some other ones.
I think it's cool that, I've been doing this for a year and a half now, and hanging out with you guys has been great, and Pete and all that good shit. But it's interesting how, like, excited I got to see somebody else at the gym, knowing that people that sort of jump into this. Oh, I have synonyms for journey. Let's call it for journey for now.
Cinnamon?
Yeah, I got synonyms. Damn, it fucked me up. Yeah. But you get excited for other people that join the gym or like go to see Marco, and it's like, yeah, because I feel better, and like my wife, and all of a sudden she started to feel, but people are going to get something out of it if they put into it, and so it's just a cool thing to see.
I mean, I think one of the strongest components of our gym is our membership.
Yeah,
and I think that's becoming more and more an asset for other members. All honesty, like not only does it change their experience, but it gives them, a support system. And there's just something about being around good people.
Yeah.
Like we have like someone asked me about staff and whatever. I just got to the point. It's like, we don't allow dickheads. Like it's this simple rule. It's like no dickheads.
I have a question in today's like, hey, do you ever have someone that doesn't fit in, and like, is there a way to sort of get them into the community or feel a part of? Like, I still kind of am. Like I come there for a very specific purpose, to put my headphones in and keep my head down. But, you nod to people, and you sort of can tell that people feel the same way or working on the same stuff. And there's a camaraderie there that really
100%.
helps improve the experience for the consumer. Can you teach that, or does it just happen innately?
Well, the other interesting thing, the camaraderie goes through all ages, too. So in terms of wisdom, life experience, there's people with purely social experience that you might need to lean on or can get some good advice or bad advice, whatever, that they've done or not done. And then nobody in there socially or professionally is competing.
Yeah.
For instance, like working at a hospital, you'd be in the surgeon's lounge or the doctor's lounge and be like, you know what? I have like a light bulb out at my house or something. And someone would be like, well, at my bigger house, I have a grand foyer with a giant chandelier, and I called Johnny Neutron, who's $3 million a minute.
To change my light bulb.
It's purely just to make themselves feel better. Where at the gym, it's like, oh yeah, I got a buddy who's an electrician. Hand him $5 and he'll fucking reroute all your electricity.
Yeah.
And he's a good friend of mine, so I know he'll do the job right.
It's interesting. When I first started, I definitely would compare myself more to other people at the gym. Like, what's that guy putting up? Should I be putting up that much weight? And now I'm totally indifferent to what other people are doing. As long as it looks like they're there to exercise. Like I break people's balls that talk too much when they're at the gym. It's like, how are you here for 4 hours? Don't you have a job? But at the same time, like I think I'm getting better because I don't like, oh, he's putting up 60s. I should be putting up 70s and all that shit. And I think it's just a sign of improvement and growth.
Yeah, I agree.
A few fact checks from last episode.
Oh.
I'll give you the heads up. It's a little verbose. I'm going to try to trim it down for you.
Let it rip.
Dude, age management. I said off air, and I'm going to repeat it. Does not look favorably on our friend Dr. Fish Lujic, but I'm going to read it out loud anyway. Ready?
Wiki.
Longevity medicine is a set of preventative healthcare practices that rely on biomarkers of aging, such as aging clocks, to keep the patient's biological and psychological age as near to peak performance as feasible throughout life. In the first decade of the 21st century, what was called age management medicine was considered a field of alternative medicine. And as of 2007 was not recognized by the American Medical Association. Age management medicine is often promoted by anti-aging practitioners specializing in nutritional supplements and hormone replacement, a practice that may lead to harmful side effects.
Yeah, so I think here's what you got to do, whether it's me sounding psychotic, conspiracy guy or whatever.
Never.
There was someone on the planet who invented a water-based engine that could run a car from LA to New York on like 22 gallons of water at 60 miles an hour.
Incredible.
That guy was found dead by suicide, and the car was stolen and never found again. There was another guy in Iran, same thing. That engine disappeared, and currently we are still using petroleum.
Okay.
Age management medicine is the fucking nemesis to hospital-based corporate healthcare, because the more healthy people you have,
the less you
need to go get cardiac bypass. Like if I could fix heart disease till the point where you just age until you're 90, 100, whatever, and then die because you had a great quality of life, you lived how you wanted to live, and you don't need to go spend years in a nursing home or cardiac rehab or anything. That industry is going to really not be fun. If you come up with a cancer screening tool that eliminates the need for surgical intervention or late-stage chemo, right? Why would they want that? So at the end of the day, anybody who wrote that has a problem with health, number one. The second thing is the term age management. To me, I don't know how, as a healthcare practitioner, you don't embrace that. Because if you're a doctor and you say, I don't involve myself in age management, then what the fuck are you doing?
It's interesting when you break it down to its simplest terms, and I don't mean to downplay what you do, because clearly I'm a fan. You go to your office, and it's pretty simple. It's just you and your bookkeeper, receptionist, assistant, whatever you want to say. But it's like a small little office, and you go there and you read a blood panel, and you say, here's what's wrong, here's what you need to work on. You send people to like get to work. You go to a doctor's office, you're in a big building, there's a waiting room, there's 40 people running around with paperwork. And like the experience is so different, but at the end of the day, aren't we just trying to get the same thing? I just want you to help me stay healthy.
Yeah,
and
there's
you need, I guess when you look at it like globally, like maybe I don't need all these bells and whistles or even red tape to stay healthy.
I mean, it's like the house analogy I once used. My practice of medicine is just making sure that we pour the foundation correct, we put up the frame, we insulate it, and we put up some sheetrock without holes, right? So your foundation, your walls, and your roof are solid. That's it. The way you paint your house, all the bells and whistles and all the diagnostics and the fancy shit added onto it, no problem. Let that go down the road. This is core foundational medicine. Hospitals throw you a ton of smoke and mirrors because it keeps you occupied thinking that they're really investigating your health.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you get an email that's like, your labs looked great. So your foundational medicine, they don't give a shit about. But if you need a stent put in your heart, there's 50 people that'll jump through a hoop to get that done.
Yeah, they're at your front door.
It's money.
Thermodynamics. Thermodynamics is the science of the relationship between heat, work, temperature, and energy. In broad terms, thermodynamics deals with the transfer of energy from one place to another and from one form to another. The key concept is that heat is a form of energy corresponding to a definite amount of mechanical work.
Yeah.
Does that make? I don't understand any of that. I just read it out loud. I don't understand any of that.
What don't you get? like thermo always is going to imply heat.
Agreed.
Dynamics is all the inner workings that's going on that
like
we can
movement.
see, and movement, but like also the movement you're not seeing, like your heart's pumping, your lungs are moving. There's so much energy being transferred and needed, demanded from your body. It's ridiculous.
So it's not a theory. It's just a description of the way that energy is moving either through us as people or really anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too deep for me, dude.
Well, like Matrix stuff.
Yeah,
and
I
the final
the sheetrock thing that
It's like
Marco said.
why in the Matrix they chose human bodies to be batteries.
Yeah. Well, we are. We're giant
puts off
batteries.
heat, puts off energy. And they remember the Matrix.
Is that
they,
blue pill, red pill? That's that movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
You never watched that movie?
Yeah, a long time ago. You're a big Keanu guy. Not everyone's as dedicated to his career as
He
you are.
kind of always has been.
Yeah, well,
He's always been a big
Point
kid.
Break. Yeah,
Point break. I wear the shirts.
NFL lineman diet. The average offensive lineman requires, you want to guess how many calories?
8,500.
6,500 calories a day to perform at his peak sufficient energy throughout an entire game. A good balance for the weekend warriors and many elite athletes is to consume 50% of their calories in
Carbs.
30% in,
Protein.
20% in.
Fat.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
All right. I always say this word incorrectly. Autophagy? Autophagy?
Autophagy.
Autophagy. is your body's process of reusing old and damaged cell parts. Cells are the basic building blocks of every tissue in the organ and in your body. Each cell contains multiple parts that keep it functioning. Over time, these parts can become defective or stop working. They become litter or junk inside an otherwise healthy cell. Autophagy is your body's cellular recycling system.
Yeah.
It allows a cell to disassemble its junk parts and repurpose the salvageable bits and pieces into new, usable cell parts. A cell can discard the parts it doesn't need. So that's this. We talked about autophagy as it related to fasting.
Right.
Yeah.
Because my buddy had stopped eating for 3 days under the premise that his body
I'm
would,
healthy now.
Yeah, and in lack of better terms, would rejuvenate itself.
Yeah.
This sounds like it's true.
Yeah, so there is truth to that.
Your cell can discard the crap, rebuild,
Right.
and be uncrappy.
First and foremost, autophagy is going to happen whether you fast or not.
Okay.
So, yeah,
It's just a naturally occurring.
yeah, it has to
All
happen.
day.
Like, it's just like the debris and waste products that are being built up are going to be cleared out unless you have an underlying medical something. So autophagy is going to happen no matter what. If you fast, if you do keto, if you train or whatever, it gets sped up a little bit because there's less there's more focus on doing that. But also resistance training does the same thing, and you get the benefit of not starving yourself.
So is autophagy like if I take 300 grams of protein, but my body can only use 200, is autophagy happening with the other 100? The surplus of proteins?
No, that's a different. So that's lack of use of nutrients.
Okay.
Autophagy is literally like, oh, there's a muscle cell in our group of cells in the bicep that's not working well. We're going to
It's
recycle
old.
that cell and make a new one. Or you have a piece of your liver that's kind of run its course, and you're going to build baby cells that are then the old cells will die off, and you'll get rid of it and recycle the parts of that.
Is it a positive body?
Yeah, here's
thing?
the thing, and this is why I keep saying we could do it. We should do a fasting episode
Okay.
because it's a half-hour talk. But the generalization of it is this: when you fast, yes, autophagy happens, right? But that is like one silo of what's happening when you fast. You can have that silo happen in a fed state as well. The problem with fasting, why people feel so good in those first 48 hours, is your body thinks it's dying. So it releases the same chemicals that if you were to get pushed out of a plane and you would have that like euphoric, like, whoa, the moment before you hit the ground is like bliss because you have so much adrenaline and your body's like, holy fucking shit, we're about to die. I gotta overcome that fear by flooding my senses with epinephrine, adrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, right? So you make yourself high so you don't feel the pain. Like a Navy SEAL on the top of a mountain getting shot against 10 guys who keeps fighting. His body or her body is literally releasing chemicals to not allow itself to realize it's dying.
But if autophagy is a positive chemical reaction within the body that can happen regardless of whether you're fasting or not, is increasing its productivity something that we should try to do?
But like Mike just said, you can increase how autophagy happens without starving yourself. Like the stimulus to autophagy through starving is a waste of your time. Like there's been times in my office where someone comes in a fed state and then in a fasted state, and the only thing you lose is lean mass, and the cell counts look like you're dying.
Are you getting in better shape if you're more autophagical?
No.
That's a word, by the way.
No, I mean, granted that because we're talking about cellular turnover for the most part, which will happen like every 10 years. You have you've replaced every cell in your body or something like that, 10 to 12 years, except for some cells in your eye and brain
and
I think.
heart.
Yeah. So, but like every 10 years, you're literally a new person cellularly, right? So that's going to happen. The fact that people are going to tout the benefit of autophagy through intermittent fasting really doesn't get the long term or the long game.
Are you better at autophagy than I am because you're in better shape than I am?
I think underlying health tells you how well, because if you go from an extreme example of someone who's, let's say, starving to death, like they haven't had food in a month, they're going through autophagy, but now they're eating up regular cells. Like they're on their way down. Like there's a point of diminishing returns with any of these tactics where you're not going to be able, because it's still a stressor. I think that's what people really forget. Like
Autophagy is.
yeah, well, to get to an autophagy state in
Yeah.
terms of intermittent fasting or fasting, you're under stress. That's why you have all those chemicals and that surge of good feeling is because your body's like, holy shit, what's wrong? So it's like ramping up sympathetic nervous system to the point where it's like, all right, well, if we're not going to have any more food and we keep ramping up this system, it's like, all right, well, we're going to have to kind of destroy good tissues and good cells to keep the process going.
So if you get sick, right? If I get the flu or the cold or whatever, does my body needs to discard those flu cells and replenish with healthier cells? Is that what's happening?
Well, it's not. There's no flu cells. Flu and whatever, like bacteria and viruses, will engage your cells, interact with them either on the surface or invade them, like get through the cell wall, and then your body's immune cells go kill them.
But your immune system is cellular, yes?
Yeah. So it'll go like kill them. It's literally like a war. Like you'll have soldiers
like
in tanks
Like
go
blood
like
cells go
absorb and kill the cells that are infected.
And the healthier you are,
I mean, at the end of the
better
day,
your immune system is.
All you got to know is this: if you're
Marco wants me to move on.
No, I don't want you to move on. But like, say you take a 200-pound adult male and you tell them that autophagy is what we need to accomplish.
Got it.
72-hour fasts are the best way to do that.
Fuck.
So you eat every 3 days,
Okay.
one meal, and then you refast and refast and refast. You think you're going to maintain the muscle mass you have and live longer than if you just ate healthy every day?
Certainly doesn't sound like it.
There's no argument to be had.
Yeah. Okay. Synonyms for the word journey. Told you I was going to get there.
cinnamon toast crunch.
So there were a ton. No, but that is good.
I
There's
eat it
a
all the
half
time.
episode.
Wait,
podcast.
Journey like the band?
I just don't stop believing.
Don't stop.
So I can't stand when I reuse the same word over and over, and Journey was one of them. So
Yeah.
I went into thesaurus.com.
My favorite type of dinosaur.
The thesaurus.
And so I took out all the ones that weren't applicable, but I kept. Ready? Adventure, campaign,
That was good.
expedition, the dinosaur thing.
Yeah.
Took him a while though. Exploration, odyssey, pilgrimage, quest, or trek.
I like them
So
all.
if we can, let's just start introducing those in our vernacular.
A lot of people's health odysseys. I can't even get it out.
You can though.
It's ridiculous.
That's the only way to start.
That's not a bad one, the health trek.
yeah, health trek.
I like it.
But it's not. That's the problem. Is that's trademark. There's a gym. Is there a gym
Health
called
tracks.
Oh, so we're fine.
Yeah, health
We're in the green, babe.
I think there's a bike.
Yeah, the bike
Track. Yeah.
No, it's Shrek.
No, trek.
Great flick for kids
Of
and
course.
adults. How can we discern between being hungry and being bored?
Yeah, so there's a very distinct difference between like physiological hunger and like psychological cravings, and a lot of that is just like, well, if we do have you in a caloric balance, we've regulated your blood sugar, and it's 2:00 and you're bored, like you want to eat.
I'm feeling hungry. Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably not. It's probably not true hunger.
So
like
if your
the hunger
calorie-
signals.
How about
If your
this?
calories are met, if your number's 2,000 calories a
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
and you're at 2,000, there is zero reason your body should require.
Yeah, required.
More
Definitely,
calories.
definitely.
I
that.
think.
Okay.
I don't know if it was Mike. I think maybe I'm stealing this from you, and I use it a lot.
Steal it.
Well, no, I use it a ton. And
Well, hold
maybe
on.
It was a year
Let's
or
see
two ago.
what IP he's taking here.
No, he
Yeah.
said we were talking about physiologic hunger or psychological cravings. And you said, like, if you had grilled chicken or steamed, we'll make it even worse. Steamed chicken with no salt, like no seasoning in your fridge, and steamed veggies, like bland as shit, but with your macros and maybe a little butter added to it for fat.
Sure.
Tallow. Would you
It's healthier.
healthier?
Tallow.
How often would you get off the couch randomly and go grab
Yeah.
one of those two items and eat it throughout the course of the day or night?
Obvious answer is never.
Right.
Right.
So like you would only get up to go eat that when you were like, holy crap, I've been in autophagy
Right.
for 3 days, right? I got to go eat. But you would only go eat, truly, as autophagy joking aside, you'd go eat when you were actually hungry and your body was physiologically in need of caloric intake.
So is it true then, or is it theoretically something that may be beneficial to put steamed chicken and steamed vegetables in your refrigerator.
Oh, yeah.
Wake up and do not eat a single thing until your body says, I can only eat that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of those things, though. It's so hard.
Agreed.
Because the food industry knows that. Like when you walk in a grocery store, this is the problem with like so much regulatory control or less freedom of individual, whatever. But like if a grocery store were purely single ingredient foods like meats, veggies, and fruit,
Yeah.
you would get rid of 80% of our healthcare problems.
So eating healthy is hard, period.
Yeah.
So but after like a let's say a quest of training, such as the one that you've been on, Mike, like it's probably a lot easier for somebody like you to wait until their body feels the requirement to go eat steamed vegetables and steamed chicken out of the refrigerator than somebody like me who passes down the Stop and Shop aisle and is like, yeah, these Reese's look pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and have one because I'm starving.
Well, I think it's more of a culmination of what your routine requires of you, you know, and being highly aware of like your choices that you're making. So it wasn't just that I shop, my grocery list is different than yours. It's the fact that when I go to bed, because hunger is, there's a psychological component that can be influenced through, you know, different environmental factors, and subjectively it can be
stress for me.
Right, 100%. And that's why like this time of year people are running around. There's more shitty food available. They have less sleep, more stuff to do. Work's crazy. They're trying to get everything in, and they're just like, I'm just gonna eat the fucking donut. And it's like, yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like if you set yourself up so you're not dependent on one variable being successful, but multiple variables, like the food becomes less and less like important.
And if that donut on your table was a banana, you'd eat the banana.
100%.
Like just part of it is shopping smart. Like I almost think incorporated into our world of healthcare eventually, I think like a shopping coach almost, you know, like somebody who can teach you when you go to the store, here's what to look at. It's a skill set and they distract you.
So
right?
I've been in drug rehabs where they do teach you that. They teach you how to shop responsibly. Yeah.
Well,
it's not just on the money, but also what do you actually
I had a remote client that had problems. Like she's like, I always get cookies. Like I just, what I do, I'm like, all right, so here's what we're going to do. And it was during the pandemic where I started working with her. And I was like, let's set up an Instacart. And you can only put these food items in. So I gave her a grocery list, but then it became on, like, it just was delivered to her house. Because I was trying to break the Pavlovian aspect of going to the grocery store with your grocery list, going down aisle 1 and always grabbing the cookie. You know, like I was trying to break the cycle of that. So it was like, we're not going to the grocery store anymore. And it was a new skill that she had to acquire. I know it seems very rudimentary, but like starting an
those are the most important
Instacart,
ones. Changing basics.
It's like, so if you never get cookies or whatever the hell, I forgot what it was. If you never put that in your Instacart, you will never receive it.
Well, I mean, on a medical level, if we taught shopping skills, you would eliminate half of the diseases out there. Like type 2 diabetes would be gone if you just didn't have the option of over consuming and you knew what to buy with what money.
Yeah.
And then people would actually have a real intense appreciation for how overpriced processed food is, such as fast food. Everyone thinks, oh, fast food, it's quick.
Cheap.
It's cheaper than regular food. But if you actually break down the macronutrient cost, so the cost per gram of fat, per gram of protein, per gram of carb, it's like a 12 to 15x compared to if you went to the store and just bought the same amount of quote unquote protein in pure form, carb in pure form, or fat in pure form. It's crazy. But it has to be, right? It has to be farmed, processed, delivered, trucked, reheated, served in a building that's built. Like the cost built into that is extreme.
So you both talked about the mental aspect of it and how much of a limiting factor is mental health or emotional confidence in attaining nutritional, exercise, or medical goals. Because I'll speak for me. We've been talking a lot about me wanting to gain weight and having a hard time doing it. And reflecting on it, I think one of my limiting factors to gaining weight, even though I want to gain weight, I'm not sure my inner body, my emotional part of me, my id, actually does want to gain weight because I'm afraid of being chubby, of changing the way I look, the way my wife's going to look at me. These are obstacles that people must run into all the time.
Super, super interesting topic because I used to talk about there are three things that you basically need to ascend in any given endeavor. And the first one is beliefs. Like, do your beliefs serve you? So another way of saying that is your assumptions about how the world work, right? And if we said that instead of beliefs, we probably would be less territorial about our beliefs. But I digress, and it really comes down to, if you don't believe that something can happen, or if you don't believe that it's true, or if you're not going to attempt it, and if you do attempt it, it's going to be somewhat undermined, but with the actual effort that you put in. So we really do have to focus a lot on about the operational headspace someone is coming in with to attain whatever they want. So if we can't understand, or we can't help them understand, like why we should believe it in such a way, they're not going to have success.
Does that mean you have to set it up in a goal system that is attainable? So should I be saying to myself, instead of saying you're going to put on 30 pounds in 2025, why don't you try to put 10 pounds on in the first quarter, or 5 pounds on in a month?
I wanna try to reduce it down to something ridiculous that they think, oh yeah, of course I can, like make it so it's like, hey, we don't have to run a marathon this year.
Yeah.
And if we do, we have to run a mile first. But I would do so in a way of asking them questions of, like, because I want them to answer the question. I don't want to give them an answer to a question.
Sure.
Right. So I will kind of pull out the information that I think is going to be reasonable for them to accept, so that they believe it's possible.
First one is beliefs. What's the second one?
Character traits.
Character traits.
Yeah.
Like my own personality.
So let's say we're doing
habits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, what do you think is a valuable character? Generally speaking, what is a valuable character trait to have to be successful? And I'm using like these meta words.
Sure. Loyalty.
Okay. So, like work ethic, discipline, time management. Like, what's the character trait that's keeping you? So if you don't have the belief, and we fix that, and it's like, all right, well, what are the things that you must now do to get the thing done? So, like,
and this is all goal based. You stick the word weight gain on the board, and you say, okay,
Yeah.
you got to have your belief systems have to align with
100%.
this. Your character traits have to align with this. Like loyalty. Okay, well then you have to commit to something. Therefore,
Right.
you better commit to eating an extra 500 calories a day.
But it is done in a way where they're answering those questions. I'm not telling them loyalty is important.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked
You're doing it to me right now.
Correct.
Yeah. So what's the third one?
Skills.
Oh boy.
So okay, so we want to talk about, and we just said like losing weight. People will say, "Hey, just eat less and do more."
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean?
Sure.
Let's
go ahead and do that.
That makes total sense at the population level.
Yeah.
Common doctor speak.
Yeah.
At the individual level, it means nothing.
Yeah.
Because you're giving an answer and they need a solution. Solution is the doing. So if we now have kind of created the belief system, identified some of the character traits that they must exhibit to get it done, well, what skills are you lacking? So if we say, hey, you got to eat healthy, and they're like, I don't even know where that starts, because all these things are like meta skills, and we have to break it down to these little skills. So like, all right, when you go to the grocery store, what do? I don't know. I just go and I grab some things that I see in my cupboard and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, so you don't have a grocery list. Aha! First mini skill that we have to have. We have to create a grocery list. Well, that also means we have to know what good food is, or healthy food is, or at least identify the food that we're eating as unhealthy, because that breakfast that you eat gave you that body.
Yeah, breaking the habit is really, really hard to do. So when I first got sober, one of my sponsors told me, he was like, how do you brush your teeth every day? And I said, I don't know, I grab a toothbrush, I brush my teeth, and I go like this. He's like, try with your left hand. It's going to throw your whole day, and it's going to disrupt your cycle, and things can now you're allowing yourself to do things differently. You think your life is cluttered and disorganized? Make your bed when you get up in the morning. Start somewhere positive and open yourself up to the possibility of change.
Definitely.
Do you think insecure or less confident people as a limiting factor, which we all experience, myself included, restricts or slows down progress?
Without a doubt.
Okay.
You don't have to finish it.
Therefore, would you say that more confident, more emotionally or more secure people, individuals, can get bigger, stronger, and healthier at a greater progression than less?
Well, I think they'll be more in tune with pushing themselves to get better, because their drive and their ability to be self-confident in the result they're going to achieve through like potentially not the most fun of processes is going to be way better.
Well, break it back down to those three elements. Like what is the limiting factor of you being confident? Is confidence a character trait? Is it a skill? Is it a belief? You know what I mean?
Is it
So
all
you
three?
can run the funnel and see like, all right, well, why do you believe you're not secure? Like what about you makes you insecure? Right?
How do you teach confidence though? How do you approach somebody who walks into the gym with their head down and says, I came here just because I want to like get stronger and I want people to like me more and I want to have more friends and I want to be more successful at work and I want to have more sex with my wife, but I don't know where to start. Like how do you snap somebody out of that and say, listen up, buddy, in a year if you do what I tell you to do, you're gonna feel great. That's a fucking tough pill to swallow. Take an HRT. You don't take a shot of testosterone like all of a sudden you bench press 350 pounds.
No.
You gotta wait a year. It's a huge leap of faith to look at the two of you and say, I'm going to give you my money. I'm going to give you my faith. In a year, I expect to feel better.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, I think two things. Number one, I mean, this is a deep psychological sociology type question, too. I think as a kid, your environment you're raised in will, without a doubt, affect your ability to be confident, right? So if you have a parent that's constantly nagging you and just like damaging your will to survive and your ego, that's going to fuck you up for your whole life.
Sure.
If you have the overconfident parent who's like, no, you're so good at everything. You're so good at everything. You're so good at everything.
Way to go, Tommy.
Yeah. And is not at all critical, then you probably end up with a false sense of security and you're still going to be damaged and not get to the goals.
Sure.
So I think being raised in that environment, whether it's parenting or where you are placed in terms of your surroundings, helps. And then as an adult, I don't know the answer without like huge amounts of intervention from buying into what Mike actually does even more so than the medical. So like confidence in how strong you are physically builds a ton of confidence in how strong you are mentally. Because if you can overcome physical constraints, meaning like, oh, I can't, there's no way I can pick that up, or I can't go to that gym, it's so intimidating.
Yeah.
And then you realize, holy shit, I'm in the middle of this, I'm doing it, I can pick that up, I can move this, and you can move physical weight and you can resist change physically with pushing or pulling. You then, I think, develop a strength mentally that you can overcome a lot more and your self-confidence builds. But it's buying into that.
Do you then liken your coaching or mentoring technique similar to your parenting technique?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's the same thing.
Really?
I think it's absolutely the same thing. And like Marco hit the nail on the head. I think confidence really just comes from evidence. And now you have people who are unconfident because they don't have evidence.
Yeah.
Or they are unconfident because they've never been shown the evidence that does exist.
Yeah.
Right? Sure. And that's been skewed through perception, maybe via a parent. Like, you got an A, great job, but you got one wrong on the test. Same result, you got a 98 out of 100. Great job, or why didn't you get that other one right?
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Same evidence. It's just how we choose to look at it, or how we were groomed to look at our evidence, right? So that person that came in who's unconfident, doesn't know if he can lose the weight, it's like, well, what evidence do we have to support that you can do this? I don't know. You're at the gym, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Little wins, right? Like that creates the momentum. It's like, holy shit, you're right. Now let's get this workout in. Okay, that's one workout closer. That's the evidence that we need. And we just have to keep on sharpening our focus on the things that are proving that we're doing the right things. And a lot of the confidence and the evidence comes through action. What acts are we taking?
Yeah, what are you doing about it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
It's one thing to say I can't lose the weight, and it's like, well, that might be true if you're just calling me from your car, not actually doing it. But since you got to the gym, you've done something. What else are you doing to achieve this or set the expectation more realistically?
And I think we really do take for granted how much physical strength plays into just mental confidence. It's an understated thing in terms of theory, but then in terms of science, if your muscles are actually working well and healthy, you're releasing a lot more good chemicals. If your gut is healthy and you're eating healthier, your gut, it makes all of your serotonin. You have better responses to body chemicals where your confidence then builds because you're living in a positively soaked environment rather than constant negativity. And you can see it, like couch potatoes are never super excited about anything. But you go in a gym and everyone's like, "Oh, what are you on? Fucking cocaine?" Because
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
in gym's
yeah.
like, blah, 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 "I'm gonna go
Yeah.
today, and I'm gonna go to the store, and I'm gonna go right."
Yeah,
like, because you're
I'm gonna go to the grocery store. It's gonna be great.
no, but
love
I
it.
mean, you're hopped
No
up,
doubt, no
right?
doubt, yeah.
And it's weird. Like sometimes I'll walk in the gym and I'm like, "All right, I'm feeling good, like confident, whatever." I start lifting, and all of a sudden I want to just like say crazy shit.
No kidding.
You never
after,
do though.
Yeah.
you're
But
so
after like
crazy.
but after like a big pump, you just feel like,
Feel good.
guess what I'm doing? You know, like you just feel really good about yourself because your muscles are actually an endocrine organ.
So it's not that you actually look better in the mirror. Your body actually feels
Better.
and your
and-
brain
and
actually responds.
Science doesn't know a thing about it. We have always viewed muscles as a structural component of your body. Go ask any surgeon or any doctor or internal medical doctor in the hospital. Ask them if someone walks in the hospital and you did a body fat, body mass, muscle, bone density composition scan, and they put them in a bed and that person had pneumonia. Find me one fucking doctor, a single on this planet, that unless that person's intubated and hasn't eaten for days, that would analyze that person's macro or micronutrient intake. Find me one. You find me one right now, I'll streak Whitney Avenue if anybody wants me to.
God, I hope we find one.
You won't.
I'm looking.
There's not
Yeah.
I was in hospital medicine and not a single time did anybody ever get admitted to the hospital. And on their plan, it was either NPO, meaning nothing per
Yeah.
mouth, right? Or regular diet or soft diet, whatever. It was never broken down to like, oh, Jimmy needs more protein, give them more fat, unless they had a pathological problem that they were already suffering from as a symptom. But it was never done in maintenance, right? So muscles, building muscle, having protein content, having that endorphin release, having that chemical release, we don't even know. We don't even study it. But the muscles are not purely structural. And they need to be looked at as a more endocrine organ than anything at this point in time because they truly play a really, really big role in your health. And if you look at the definition of longevity, as we've said a million times, it is very rare that you find an 80-year-old with a ton of muscle that's suffering, right? A lot of the neurodegenerative disorders, what do they do? Instantly attack muscles because the nerve stimulus, and you don't move. And the minute you stop moving, what happens?
You die.
You die,
Yeah.
right? It's an instant thing. Old people, 90 plus, they fall, they break their hip, they stop moving. Within a week, you'll know if they're going to make it or not, right? So until we grasp that, until we realize that like healthcare is actually founded in like the principles of what Mike's doing, where you need to come in and exercise and build that confidence, character traits, all these other things.
Belief systems.
Yeah, we spoke about. You're going to have unhealthy populations.
My daughter is 4 and she's in pre-K and 19 kids in her class. Last week, 11 of them were out with RSV. We get a note home from the teacher and says, look, if your kid has a runny nose or blah, blah, please just don't send them in. Just like Christmas break is about done. Okay. What actually is, so I'm looking at it and it says like, oh, your child is contagious for 48 hours or whatever it is. What actually is contagious? Are we not, when people get sick, can't you make somebody else sick? Are we doing ourselves or the community a service by secluding ourselves when we don't feel well? Is there actually a value there?
So, I mean, viruses have been around forever.
Sure.
Right? And they are the ultimate computer system. They're little things.
Meaning that they're smart?
They're like microprocessors.
Yeah, they're fucking brilliant, right?
Yeah.
And they've survived time. Like, we can't get rid of them. We just can stop them from spreading at certain times.
Contain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way they do that is, say an RSV gets in your body. I don't know what it's thinking, but over time it's evolved to irritate your lungs so that you cough.
Mm-hmm.
And when you cough, you spread your lung juice and someone else breathes it in and they get infected.
Yeah.
The same way like a tree drops acorns so that it can foster more trees. So contagious is, can you spread it at a certain amount of time? And a lot of the viruses now have evolved to the point where you might not even be coughing or sneezing, just breathing regular, and they've already populated your sputum or the stuff that comes out of your lungs when you breathe.
Sputum?
Yeah, like
Gross,
spit.
dude.
Gotta use my health sputum.
Yeah. It's such a bad term.
That stuff.
Okay. Yep.
And so they're already ahead of the game. So you might be contagious before you're even symptomatic. on a lot of these, and I think that's the problem. But containing it, and the word contagious means like, can you isolate somebody so that they can't spread whatever they have?
So are you a fan? Are you a proponent of isolating when people are not feeling well?
Certain diseases, yeah. I mean, there's certain.
I'm talking about everyday stuff. I'm talking about having a cold, fucking pink eye, having
Not really. I think if you can't
COVID.
Yeah, we really do it more like RSV will be mortal for some people. The majority of the population, it's not.
Yeah. But how many people are walking around undiagnosed to begin with? Isn't
lot.
it a lot more
A
than
ton,
people that are diagnosed?
Yeah, tons.
Yeah.
And it's a tricky question as to how much isolation we should do. Like smallpox, you have to, like, that'll get you. So yes.
When you mentioned like 90-year-old people, once their muscles start diminishing, they sort of are at the end of their life and they die. Why do people, and we've talked about puberty before as it relates to hormones, but on the latter end of that spectrum, like why do people's hair grow gray? Why do you get wrinkly? Why do your bones get weaker the older you get? Why do you get shorter? Is it a lack of proper nutrition and a lack of proper exercise? Or is your body's time clock just winding down? Is your battery going to zero?
It kind of goes back to the cellular turnover, because at some point those cells aren't what they were 20 years ago. And that has a downstream effect of like functionality or appearance. And I don't really know the actual mechanisms of why cells can't reproduce at a certain level and sustain,
Certain age?
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. And I think that is the definition of aging as far as we know. It's like the cells just don't produce the same cells.
So I didn't do this intentionally, but then is autophagy or the lack thereof like a symptom of like death or the end of your life?
No, your body is built to reproduce, right?
Like,
Cardiac muscle is one of the few things in your body that won't regenerate itself, but everything else is kind of built to go. And I don't think we ever know the true ability of heart muscle to last, because we've never just taken it out of the body and let it pump for 1,000 years. We don't really know. So aging is exposure to environment with stress response by the body that will change the cellular turnover. So if you lived in a perfect environment, you gave yourself from birth the perfect amount of calories, the perfect amount of movement, which I don't know what that is, right?
Sure,
Sure.
No one does.
Nobody does. We're trying to figure that out, I guess. Your body should be set up to keep going and going and going relatively indefinitely.
So if you're healthy and you eat well and you do the right things, quote, end quote,
Yeah.
like, is the only reason that one would just drop dead spontaneously is genetics?
No, I can't really answer that. My answer to
Because people
everything.
do. People just die.
Yeah, my target in age management world are your blood vessels, because
Yeah.
I think if you deliver the right nutrition with the right amount of repair mechanism, as long as that nutritional supply is getting to the cells of your body in the right way, they should just keep going. And I think we're living in a very, very small microcosm of what the human body can do. Like 100 years is our limit, which I don't know why it's it's a 10 times a 10 per year. You know what I mean? It's like a decade, a century.
Sure.
Like there's no reason that's the only amount of time we should live. And I don't think it'll be a long time before that is significantly extended, when kind of the 10-year-old to 20-year-old generation right now starts buying into really big health movements. And I think they'll live way longer than we do.
It
Interesting
kind of
point.
sounds like the blue zone, like why everyone is looking at blue zones now and being like, what are they doing? What are they eating?
Yeah, so
Oh, you're talking about the little pockets of the world. Is that a blue zone where people are living longer?
yeah, but
Yeah,
can I make a crazy comment on that? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Not to digress. So there's a huge thing coming out right now about debunking blue zone stuff, because they're going through the census in those areas, and the people are really poorly tracked. So they have a lot of people on record that have been living for 100+ years that are actually been dead for a long time.
No way.
Yeah, but the death reports were not reported.
Wait, that's like black sheep, isn't it? Where
No,
there are people
and I don't know.
voting for- Yeah.
Let me take it.
Chris probably
reference.
really had
I'm
it
not
nailed.
saying it's a definite or not.
Sure.
All I'm saying is there's currently like a huge anti-aging movement to really debunk the myth, because if you look at their diets, it's like super high fats. A lot of them we're in smoking areas like tobacco consumption. So they're starting to investigate that a little more.
So we talked about the value of exercise, nutrition, and how it relates to longevity. But what about earlier stuff? Is there like too young to start focusing on, let's be specific, resistance training? Like if somebody walked in, I brought my kid in. She's 7. Hey, I want her to start working out. I want you to get her like in the program. Is that too young? Is there too young to start doing this stuff?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, with kids, like if it's not fun, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And there's a certain level of age appropriateness for resistance training. Not that it won't like help or do harm. It's just, are they going to get the most out of that unit of time? So instead of doing back squats and bench presses with a 7-year-old, should they just be on swings? You know what I mean? Like, because they don't really have, yeah. So they really don't have the infrastructure to support resistance training as we try to leverage it, because a lot of that's the hormonal factors or developmental stage that they're in. It's just, they're not going to have the same return on investment as a 25-year-old woman. Right. So I think it's better to keep them like develop the habits of activity, self-responsibility, owning your own health and well-being through whatever medium that you want to explore that, rather than put them in a gym, give them dumbbells and say bench press.
But as a parent, like we make some decisions for our children that we think are in their best interest, whether or not they agree with us. And you could say we force them into it, but we're doing it because we love them and we want them to be healthy, happy, and all those things. Is there, let's say my kid is a couch potato. It's Frank, or wherever the fuck we said, was sitting on the couch eating potato chips and playing video games all the time. Now that's my kid, and she's 9, she's 10, she's 12. And I'm saying, you know what, honey? You got to get off your ass and you need to do something about your lifestyle. Yeah. And I walk her into your gym. Is there a marker that says like, hey, I appreciate what you're saying and I understand you want your kid to be healthy, but would you say you got to put her on the swings and get her to play soccer because putting her on an assault bike and bench pressing is probably not age appropriate.
Correct.
Okay.
The other thing is I don't know overtly like if they're going to find it fun enough to actually get out of it and then feel it as though it's punitive in nature. Like you're lazy, therefore you must go to the gym, or you're fat, you must eat carrots. You know what I mean?
That's how adults feel. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I don't know if that's great either.
Okay.
Because if you said, Mike, I hate lifting, but I love Zumba.
Yeah.
Go do Zumba for the next 4 decades, dude. Like, manage your weight. Don't get over X pounds. Eat a healthy diet, blah, blah, blah. Manage your stress. Have good relationships that give you, a value in life.
Make yourself feel better.
And do all the other things. But forcing yourself to do something, there's a very short timeline on that.
All right, but and we've talked about learned behaviors before. Exercising is a learned behavior for somebody that didn't start it at a young age, and I'm still not there. I don't love going to the gym. There is an element of punitive, of feeling punished, of saying I need to do this because I didn't do something well before. That's part of my drive and ambition, and
that's great.
Yeah, but
for you, for a fully grown adult,
yeah. So because I'm a grown up,
but I don't know if a 7-year-old is going to be able to reconcile that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's also interesting just genetics or human characteristics like my son's 6-year-old basketball team, for instance. There's 11 kids on it, right?
And they all have RSV.
No, like 7 of them are fighting each other to play. Literally like, I want to play the whole game. I want to play the whole game. I want to play the whole game. There are legitimately, and it's not a confidence issue, there are 3 kids on the team that just like could give a shit.
Yeah.
Like they'll sit on the bench, they're cheering, they're fine. You're like, you want to go in? They're like, nope. And it has nothing to do with confidence. They're just not really wanting to run hard. Like they don't like, I think, that feeling of exhaustion where some kids thrive on that. So even at that age, I do think there's like a motivation thing that's somewhat built into you. And if that's what before we talked about environmental exposure, who's around you, parenting, who you're seeing every day. And there is also probably a genetic component, right? Like if you put a ball in the middle of a field and get 20 kids and say, go get that ball, 5 of them are willing to stab each other in the eye.
Yep.
Another 5 are halfway there, just can't really get motivated enough to stab each other in the eye. And 10 of them are staring at the fucking woods.
Yeah.
So There's definitely variation in humans, which I think goes across the board in terms of activity, social, anything.
I mean, it reminds me of like why everyone's like attention deficit disorder is thrown around so much.
Yeah.
It's like I don't really believe that there. I'm not saying that's not a diagnosis. I think it's more of an attention management disorder than attention deficit.
Yeah, maybe
'Cause
they
the
don't
same-
enjoy what they're doing.
Correct.
Yeah.
The same guy who does not want to be in geography class will crush 6 hours of video games. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just like figuring out what they're going to commit to.
Just yesterday, my mom's like, she did something, and I was like, "Oh, that's really bougie of you." And she didn't really know that term, right? People use it now, and they must not have in the '60s, whatever. And I gave her the whole spiel about bourgeoisie and proletariat. And she's like, "What the?" She's like, "You didn't go to class in high school. How do you know this stuff?" And to your point, like I probably would have been diagnosed with ADD. I just didn't want to be sitting in front of a blackboard,
100%.
listening to someone talk to me about Karl Marx. But I'll tell you what, if you put it in a podcast and put it in my ear, and I could do it while I'm shooting hoops or playing street hockey, I'm going to absorb it. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to enjoy it. And
Yeah.
it's just a different way of learning.
Correct.
In or out. Ready?
Oh,
Yeah.
Using the same tissue twice.
Out,
out,
Spitting out the window.
in,
out,
Same socks 2 days in a row.
out,
out.
Peeing with the seat down.
in. It's a test.
I'm trying to teach my boys out,
Pizza crust.
in,
Out,
Anything coffee flavored that isn't coffee.
out,
in,
Pistachios.
in.
out,
I love a good pistachio
Cream cheese frosting.
all fucking
In.
day.
Chicks in men's hoodies.
in,
In,
Chicks in pickup trucks.
in,
Country music.
out.
out,
Group dancing.
in. I like a good group sesh.
Sure, in.
You seem like a big Macarena
I'm a
guy.
big-
don't
yeah.
you?
Hey, Margaret.
Sugar Ray.
In,
Boys to Men.
out,
In,
Yes. Lady Gaga.
out,
out,
Britney Spears.
in,
out,
Disney movies.
in,
out,
Star Wars.
out,
out,
Lord of the Rings.
out,
Harry Potter.
out.
Scrabble.
in.
Are we gonna play it next week?
We might.
In.
Sudoku.
What is that?
Is that right?
The numbers.
SODUKU. Yeah,
I
The
can't
numbers.
be
in a
it. I
square.
can't
I've
be
never
it if I
played
don't
it.
know what the fuck it
Out.
is.
Agreed. Crossword puzzles.
In.
Games at the end of a podcast.
In.
All day.
If you can't pet it,
It ain't Pete.
It's not Pete.
till next time.
Later.